It was August 1856, and Great Britain was celebrating victory in the Crimean War. 2.5 years earlier, the British had joined forces with France and the Ottoman Empire, present-day Turkey, against the Russian Empire on the Crimean Peninsula. The Allies had prevailed, but their triumph had come at a high cost. Britain hadn't fought a large conflict since the defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte in 1815, and military leaders had been unprepared for the changes in warfare since that time. Officers on both sides had made bad decisions that dragged out the struggle and worsened the suffering that people had to endure. It was also the first major conflict after the invention of the telegraph. For the first time, reporters were able to gather news close to the battlefront and send it back to their home offices in real time, giving their readers more information on what was happening than they'd ever had before. For the first time, readers didn't just hear about the great generals. They also read about the common soldiers, as well as non-soldiers who had other roles in the war effort. When the war ended, the British people weren't interested in the incompetent officers who had gotten so many of their men killed. Instead, they welcomed an entirely new set of heroes. On August 17th, citizens of Southampton turned out to greet the steamship Argo as it pulled into port. They were hoping to catch a glimpse of the war's biggest hero arriving back on their shores. But all they saw was the Russian-made carriage that the hero had used to travel around the war zone. A wooden vehicle with waterproof canvas lining the interior, a full-length canopy on top, and curtains on each side. The hero the people were expecting was nowhere to be found. In fact, that hero had already returned to Britain 10 days earlier, slipping in anonymously and, by some accounts, walking the last 1.5 miles of the journey home. That hero was Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp, who had taken a team of nurses to the main British military hospital in the Ottoman city of Scutari. Before her arrival, infection and disease were killing soldiers in the hospital faster than gunfire killed them on the battlefield. By the end of the war, and despite interference by military leaders who saw her as a meddler, she had transformed the hospital system and had dramatically reduced the death rate. British newspapers were filled with stories from wounded soldiers describing the hope and comfort they felt at seeing Nightingale make her rounds every night, carrying a lamp from bed to bed as she checked on each patient. The stories of Florence Nightingale's work in Crimea and her revolutionary impact on the nursing profession are well known. But there's another story that most people have not heard. When Nightingale came home, she was determined to take the lessons she had learned in Crimea and use them to improve hospital care throughout the British Empire. But how could she convince doctors, hospital administrators, and government officials to listen to her? How could she persuade them to put her ideas into practice? She found her answer in statistics. Nightingale was a skilled mathematician and had enthusiastically followed the work of statistical pioneers and innovators. When the time came to present her ideas for improving hospital care, she drew on that work and took it a step further. Instead of simply writing up tables of numbers, she presented her results graphically, with diagrams that let decision-makers understand her results at a glance. Then she took those same diagrams to the general public, who had never seen anything like them. Today, it's common for governments, businesses, and individuals to use statistics to make decisions and to evaluate their performance. We're used to seeing graphs of all shapes and sizes, but not many people know that the lady with the lamp was an important pioneer of these techniques. This is her story.